Hello, konnichiwa, everyone. So today, I want to talk about why I quit NYU and came to Japan. So I've been always wanting to start YouTube, and I've always wanted to kind of introduce myself out there. So this is a very quick, easy start for me to start talking about why I came to Japan, and talk a little bit about my background. So hopefully, you can find some insight from this video if you ever want to come to Japan or if you're curious about life in Japan. Oops. All right. So basically, I was born in Korea, and I went to the US when I was about 8th grade. And then since then, until the second year of college, I was in the United States, New York City. And in 2013, I came back to Korea for military service. And then after the military service, I did not go back to NYU, but instead I applied to Keio University in Japan. And then I basically redid my undergrad in Keio. And then I also pursued a master's degree there. And then since 2022, I've been working as a dev in Japan. All right, so why the hell did you quit NYU? It's such a good school, and you just went to Japan, which is like, people don't know what kind of colleges are there. I've heard this question like probably about 100 times while I was in Japan. And today I'm gonna put together the answer in YouTube. Okay, so first reason. I've always wanted to go to Japan since young, right? So as all you guys, right? Like we grow up playing Pokemon, watching anime. Like I was one of them. That naturally got me hooked into Japanese culture, Japanese language, music, and everything. And I've always wanted to learn the language, right? So, the first reason really is I kind of wanted to live my like childhood dream and go to Japan. So that was like first big reason. Second reason, I've always wanted to live in Japan. So after living in the US for 7 years, if there's one thing I really learned from that experience is that unless you live in that country for a while, it's really hard for you to really understand like the culture and language of that country. So instead of just dreaming about being in Japan or watching stuff about Japan, I was like, okay, like I must live there in order to actually understand what the country is like, right? Because so if you're a Korean viewer, you're probably familiar with all this historical like beef between Korea and Japan, and those like anti-Japan sentiment is still present in Korea, especially when I was growing up. So I always felt like it's really hard to get the information that is kind of transparent, that doesn't have any kind of bias against Japan. And I've always wanted to just go out there and explore myself, just meet the people. And really get to know them without the bias. And I've always kind of had this feeling in my mind that I could meet some great people there, and I did. So for me, that was kind of my idea. So during my military time and also 1 year after, I probably traveled to Japan about 10 times. Sometimes on my personal travel, sometimes sponsored by government and all that. I can talk about it later more. And I've pretty much confirmed that, okay, like I want to live in Japan. This is awesome. So yeah, I came to Japan after that. And third, the biggest reason that connects to why I quit NYU is that I just didn't think NYU was worth it for me. It's worth it for a lot of people, but because I studied computer science and I was planning to work as like a software engineer and everything, self-studying is really important as a software engineer. So when I was taking classes, I just didn't think it was worth the money for me to pay for the tuition here, because I feel like a lot of these things I can just study by myself. So for me, after the military service, I was like, you know what? I'm not going back to NYU. I want to just kind of self-teach myself how to code more and do some digital nomading. And after experimenting with it a little bit, I realized, okay, like I actually need some job experience because coding is not easy, Like I actually have to have some years of experience to get better. And then I was thinking, okay, like what's my next destination? Like what I want to do. And then, I connected with my childhood dream, which is going to Japan. And then I realized, hey, the easiest way for me to go to Japan is actually going to school again. And Japan is very generous on giving scholarships for foreigners. So luckily, I received a full scholarship to study in Keio University for a whole 6 years. And yeah, for me, it's like I applied to school. It was a no-brainer. Like I didn't think it was worth it, so I just came to Japan. Yeah, so that was basically my 7 years in Japan summed up. And so far, like I've always been happy for coming here. I think it is the best decision I've ever made in my life. You do sometimes or quite often see people that say, oh, like, I don't like life in Japan, I don't like working here. Sure, like, it really depends on people. But for me, I really love it. Like, I feel like I never really got out of that honeymoon phase, to be honest. Like, ever since the day I got here. And even now, I still feel like I'm traveling every day, even when I do work, even when I just go somewhere. And I absolutely love it. So I just hope this can be some inspiration to a lot of people out there who's looking to come to Japan, who's curious about life in Japan, because I know, there are so many resources out there. They talk about, oh, like, like life in Japan is tough because you get paid low and, you work at a shitty corporate job, their culture is toxic, or like, you hear all those things. And sure, like, I'm not going to deny that, like, that does happen. But I do think that there are ways where you can kind of like set out your environment so that you don't end up in this situation. And I think I've been very careful about my approaches doing that. And so far, it's been very great for me. And a lot of my friends in Japan, they love their life here. So I just wanted to tell you, like, it's possible. You come to Japan and you enjoy life here, like, that's totally possible. And I just hope you don't get discouraged by people sharing negative experiences, okay? All right, so yeah, basically that's me rambling about my life in Japan. And yeah, I know my personality. If I spend too much time editing or making my script perfect, probably not gonna be able to continue this. So I think I'm just gonna ramble like this and communicate with you guys. I was very happy to connect with you guys, like when I was giving advice on Java devices, finding dev jobs in Japan, and all that. So yeah, I hope you get some insight from it. And thank you so much. And see you more in next videos. Leave some comments and questions if you're curious about anything. And yoroshiku.